European or Western literature is the history of literatures in the languages of Indo-European family, along with a small number of other languages whose cultures became closely associated with the West from ancient times to the present. Diverse as they are, European literatures, like European languages, are parts of common heritage. The common literary heritage is essentially that originating in the ancient Greece and Rome. It was preserved, transformed, and spread by Christianity and thus transmitted to the vernacular languages of the European continent, the Western Hemisphere, and other regions that were settled by the Europeans. To the present day, this body of writing displays a unity in its main features that sets it apart from the literatures of the rest of the world. In this video, we're going to have a closer look to European literature as we are going to show you notable writers from different European era.
The classical literature refers to the masterpieces of Greek, Romance, and other ancient civilizations. The term, usually spelled classical, is also used for any language in a period notable for excellence and enduring quality of its writer's work.
Everything is more beautiful because we're doomed. You will never be lovelier than you are now. We will never be here again.
The Iliad along with the Odyssey are two of the most important epic poems in Western history, both having a profound effect on the development of written arts and culture. Traditionally, these poems are ascribed to Greek poet Homer. Through his epic poems, Homer has played a hugely influential role in Western literature. His classics of the Iliad and the Odyssey stand at the forefront of the Western canon of the literature. Details about the life of Homer are scarce, and different sources quote different variations about his life. The historian Herodotus places Homer as living around 850 BC. However, other sources suggest Homer was born around the time of the Trojan War in the early 12th century BC. Homer was the most important and earliest of the Greek and Roman writers. Greeks and Romans didn't count themselves educated unless they knew his poems. His influence was felt not only on literature but on ethics and morality via lessons from his masterpieces.
Medieval literature, defined broadly as any work written in Latin or the vernaculars between 476 to 1500 CE, including philosophy, religious treatises, legal texts, as well as works of the imagination. More narrowly, the term applies to literary works of poetry, drama, romance, epic prose, and histories written in the vernaculars of Europe.
Midway upon the journey of our life, I found myself within a forest dark. For the straightforward pathway had been lost.
The Divine Comedy is an allegory of human life presented as a visionary trip through the Christian afterlife, written as a warning to a corrupt society to steer itself onto the path of righteousness. It is a work written by one of the famous authors in the Middle Ages, Dante Alighieri. Dante was born in Florence in 1265 between May 21 and June 20, and remained devoted to his native city all his life. Dante's life was shaped by the long history of conflict between the imperial and papal partisans. Dante grew up in a city brimming with post-war pride and expansionism. Dante's Divine Comedy, a landmark in Italian literature and among the greatest works of all medieval European literature, is a profound Christian vision of humankind's temporal and eternal destiny.
The book amazes by its array of journeys, penetrating, comprehensive analysis of contemporary problems, and its inventiveness of language and theme, which seems to write in the Italian vernacular rather than English. Dante's scientific influence, of course, has developed.
was influenced by the intellectual and cultural tendencies associated with
Renaissance.
O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name. Or if thou wilt not, be but sworn, my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. In William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, a long feud between the Montague and Capulet families disrupts the city of Verona and causes tragic results for Romeo and Juliet. Contrast and conflict are running themes throughout Shakespeare's play, Romeo and Juliet, one of the Bard's most popular romantic tragedies. William Shakespeare was an English poet, playwright, and actor, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's greatest dramatist. He is often called England's national poet and the Bard of Avon, or simply the Bard. His plays have been translated into every major living language and are performed more often than those of any of his other playwrights.
During the Renaissance period, he was able to create a new style of playwriting because he makes both tragedy and comedy into one, which in his time is a big deal because way back then, comedies were comedy and tragedies were tragedy, and they were never collaborated, and that contributed big in history of European literature.
A new spirit of science and investigation in Europe was part of a general upheaval in human understanding, which began with the discovery of the New World in 1492 and continues through the subsequent centuries, even up to the present day.
The words are welcome. I have charged thee not to haunt about my doors. In honest plainness thou hast heard me say, my daughter is not for thee. And now in madness, being to supper and distempering draughts upon malicious bravery, dost thou come to start my quiet.
Plays for entertainment returned to Europe's stages in the early modern period. William Shakespeare is the most notable of the early modern playwriters, but numerous others made important contributions. From the 16th to the 18th century, Commedia dell'arte performers improvised in the streets of Italy and France. Some Commedia dell'arte plays were written down. Both the written plays and the improvisation were influential upon literature of the time, particularly upon the work of Molière. Shakespeare drew upon the arts of jesters and strolling players in creating new comedies. All the parts, even the female ones, were played by men. But that would change, first in France and then in England too, by the end of the 17th century.
The form of writing now commonplace across the world, the novel, originated from the early modern period and grew in popularity in the next century. Before the modern novel became established as a form, there first had to be a transitional stage when novelty began to appear in the style of the epic.